and welcome to tonight's Undaunted. Bringing into the news untold stories, I am Thabita Akar. Let's begin. From the hills and quiet communities of Mamfe, reports are emerging once again of alleged military operations, with residents describing a renewed wave of security activity that has left many unsettled. For people in these areas, it is not just another headline, it is part of a long and painful war tied to the struggle for self-determination in Amazonia. As those events continue to filter in from the ground, attention has also shifted sharply to the political center in Yaoundé, where Brenda Biya, daughter of President Buea, sparked controversy with claims suggesting her father is seriously ill and dying. The statement, though unverified, has added a new layer of uncertainty to an already fragile situation we are seeing here, a tense political atmosphere. And in the midst of it all, voices from the Amazonian government, including legal minds like Barrister Fru, are again calling for urgent international attention, arguing that the situation in southern Cameroon's Amazonia is not just a domestic issue, but one that speaks to a deeper question of identity, governance, and the right of a people to determine their own future. Now, from the battle-scared communities of Amazonia to the silence and speculation around the presidency, and also the growing calls for intervention, Cameroon finds itself once again at the crossroad with more questions than answers. What exactly is happening on the ground this time, and how far does it go? Well, with this, we head on to the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. And these are the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. Barrister Fru demands state action, United Nations intervention as southern Cameroon's war persists. Also tonight we'll take a look at military operations persist in Mamfe after Pope Leo XIV's visit. Well, tonight we're also going to see Pope Buea is dying, Brenda Biya claims amid unverified health speculation. And also tonight, Buea chiefs report colleague to Gendarmerie over 3 million francs CFA gift, lament being stranded in Yaoundé. And on African scene, Zambia-US health funding talks stall over minerals and data dispute. And then on news across the globe, Starmer warns Iran over anti-Semitism as UK boosts security funding. And with this, we head on to the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Lead counsel for the Amazonian prisoners of conscience and war, Barrister Joseph Fru, has called for urgent state intervention and renewed international engagement to address the ongoing war in Amazonia. In a press statement, Barrister Fru frames his intervention as a joinder to an earlier open letter by Professor Willibrod Nsoh. The statement comes in the aftermath of the apostolic visit of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, which he describes as a rare moral opening for renewed peace efforts in the conflict zone. State responsibility emphasized, Barrister Fru places the primary burden for de-escalation on the government of Cameroon and President Buea, arguing that the state holds decisive military and political authority. He maintains that while state forces operate with full command structures, detained southern Cameroon's actors remain without operational capacity, reinforcing the need for government-led confidence-building measures. Prisoner release central to peace demands. We see that a key demand in the statement is the unconditional release of all detainees linked to the crisis, described as a foundational step toward restoring trust. The council highlights long-term detentions, including C. Conrad, which takes 3,422 days, Pen Terence, and Mancho BBC, describing their continued incarceration as inconsistent with international legal standards. He further references multiple rulings by the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, which has classified aspects of these detentions as violations of international law. Renewed United Nations role and decolonization argument we see here. We see that the statement calls on the United Nations to revisit the unresolved decolonization questions of southern Cameroons, citing United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608. It argues that the absence of a final settlement of the 1961 arrangement remains a structural driver of the conflict and must be addressed for sustainable peace to be achieved. He proposed a 30-day de-escalation framework. Barrister Fru outlines a 30-day roadmap for de-escalation, proposing that the government announce unconditional prisoner releases, institute a 90-day suspension of offensive operations, and invite joint United Nations and AU mediation. Now, on the side of Southern Cameroon's actors, he calls for a reciprocal 90-day cessation of hostilities and unconditional entry into dialogue. He further proposes the deployment of a joint United Nations AU envoy alongside independent monitoring of human rights and ceasefire compliance. The statement warns that continued military confrontation without political resolution risks further entrenching instability. Barrister Fru defines peace not merely as the absence of armed war, but as the restoration of representation, institutional trust, and civilian normalcy. He warns that without access to education, governance, and political inclusion, the cycle of violence may persist. He notes that the crisis has lasted over 3,000 days since the escalation in 2017, and a vicious war would say, describing it as a sustained governance and trust deficit requiring urgent resolution. Well, tonight, just like we had our legal mind on the show with us yesterday, we are also very much delighted to have Barrister Biya right here with us on the show. Barrister Biya, good evening, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, always a pleasure. Now, Barrister Biya, looking at the renewed push for prisoner release, United Nations involvement, and a structured ceasefire framework. Barrister Fru has just stated that in his press statement. Is there now a realistic political pathway toward de-escalation and the war, or have positions on both sides hardened beyond immediate diplomatic repair?
I don't know whether it is a realistic approach. I don't know actually whether what Mr. Fru is saying there. For the record, this is not Fru Nsoh, this is a different Fru. What Barrister Fru is saying there, I don't see any difference between what we've been saying for the past several years. He's saying exactly what we've been saying. And if he has not on the scene, I'm sure he knows, he has clearance who are in jail. So what is new now? He's only saying something because the Pope has come in. That's the only new thing that has happened. His clients, who include Sisiku, have been there since 2018. I have seen him, by some Fru, in Nigeria, talking to the Senate. I'm claiming that they should take action. So what I'm trying to say is that he has done all what he could. There's nothing new about it. He was in Canada for the negotiations, though this government was not there. But he went there and claimed to represent the prisoners of conscience and so on and so forth. Nothing happened there. He failed. So he knows exactly where we've gone. He himself, he went to Nigeria. We were not part of his team to Nigeria. But that is his own effort he made legally. I just doubt whether he brought any effort. If nothing is yielding, is it because of Ambazonians? No. The Pope came and spoke. The Pope spoke to all of us, including the people in government in Yaoundé. But action is required to be taken. Who will take that action? Is it Sisiku? Who is Mr. Fru's client? No, there's nothing Sisiku can do. Is it you or me sitting here? What can we do? He has called for a ceasefire. Who is supposed to make that ceasefire? Not you and me. It's Yaoundé. He has called for a release of prisoners. Who is to release prisoners? Not you and me. It's Yaoundé. So, I don't see what responsibility we have in this. Ambazonians are not responsible for anything. If they have done anything, they have done everything in self-defense. They sat in their homes sleeping. Somebody came and killed their wives, destroyed their property. They fled into the bushes. They fled abroad. They are abroad in refugee camps. What do you expect them? No. If you are listening, that would be great. Then the Pope is come and go. The Pope delivered the message. And we see things are aggravating rather than diminishing. What does that mean? It simply means that these people in Yaoundé who are supposed to take action behave like they are throwing the decks back. Their ears are frozen, they don't listen to anything. They are bent on their continuous act of criminality. They are bent on continuing to detain people, kill others that they don't want, on and so forth. So again, Barrister Fru has a right to his opinion, which is not new. All what he has said there is what any other person has said before, other than Yaoundé. And so if they can listen to him, so be it. It is not Manchu BBC. Manchu BBC is there. They're like Pentarans. Those are the ones who can mention their names. There are hundreds in Buea. There are hundreds in Bamenda whose names are not mentioned. Well, the ones in Bamenda prison, in Buea prison, in Kondenge prison are even the lucky ones because they are still alive. They are still alive. What are the ones they killed? Who's talking for them? And they died for what? We don't know. We don't know. And so we're dealing with a criminal regime, in fact, a regime criminally tainted with everything, even to the marrows of their bones. And so let us continue to pray. We hope the Pope can brought some message that will bear fruit. But if they can add anything to what Mr. Fru is saying, so be it. Otherwise, Ambazonians continue to hope. But while you hope, continue to defend yourself in the best available means you can afford. It is a stone, hit it on the head of whoever attacks you. It is a cutlass, cut him too. It is a spear, pass it through his neck and his belly. That is the only way you can defend yourself. Don't die defenseless. Defend yourself before you die. Don't wait to be strangled without giving a kick. Kick, and if you are lucky, you can punch the eye of the criminal. That will still be a defense. Over to you.
I would say this is indeed an urgent call, Barrister and Buea, the need for Ambazonians to defend themselves. But then let's move over. We got this report from Mamfe. Local residents and community sources in Mamfe allege that government-linked forces have continued security operations in parts of the town following the people's visit, with renewed claims of property destruction and displacement. The incidents were first reported in the days leading up to Pope Leo's visit, when residents described what they termed intensified military activity in the area. Despite international attention brought by the visit of the Pope, community members now say the situation on the ground has not significantly improved. Let's watch.
These are homes that were burned on the 27th of March, yes, 2026. All of these homes like that. This is the main street. Oh, everywhere is deserted. Yes. People's homes were razed down on the 27th of March. That's it, as you can see. Yes, a good number.
We could see that visibly right there. Authorities have not issued a detailed response to the latest allegations, and independent verification of the reported incident remains limited due to restricted access to affected areas. But then we see that the developments come against the backdrop of the war between French Cameroon government and Amazonian State Army. Humanitarian organizations have repeatedly warned that civilians bear the brunt of the war, citing displacement, restricted movement, and recurring insecurity in rural communities. And while the Pope's visit was widely seen as an opportunity to highlight peace and reconciliation efforts, residents in affected areas say the underlying conditions driving the war remain unchanged, as allegations of continued military activity persist after high-profile international attention. Now, Barrister Mbesiar, in light of continued reports of military operations in Mamfe, and this is happening right after the Pope's visit, what does this suggest to you about the effectiveness of international attention in influencing the war in Amazonia? You just said the Pope in our last report, when you just gave your thought on that, you said there's not much difference with the Pope's presence and now that he's gone. So what do you have to say about this?
What we have to say about this particular event is this. It didn't happen after the Pope. No, it happened before the Pope arrived. 2 weeks. March 27th, the Pope came on the 15th of April. And so, back to Amazonia, we have to say we are getting this story now more than almost a month after it occurred. It is us to say our own story. And in relation with the Pope, this is happening in Mamfe town. Mamfe has a bishop right there. This is right there. And that bishop was in Bamenda, receiving the Pope. And the Pope went an extra mile to listen to the victims of the war. We saw people parade there. What prevented the Bishop of Mamfe from getting people victims of this particular event to talk in the St. Joseph's Cathedral in Bamenda, and say, this is us, these are pictures of our houses burned because of the war? They will not do it. The Pope was in Bamenda for the ecclesiastical province. I'm 100% sure the Bishop of Mamfe was there. Mamfe diocese was represented by other civilians and so on and so forth. Why did they not take this as victims of the war? To show the Pope life. Unless we forget again, this is Mamfe. From previous notes, we know that the war started in Mamfe. Archbishop Andrew, who was not in Bamenda, was the Bishop of Mamfe. And he testified on video that he saw the soldiers shooting people in Kemba. They even shot his own priest and killed. That is still in Mamfe. Do we see anybody in the St. Paul's, St. Peter, St. Joseph's Cathedral in Bamenda testifying live the victim from Kembang? Neither do we see the victims of the hospital burn in Mamfe, Bisangobang. Talk less of this one that just happened 2 weeks before the Pope came. And so, what else are we supposed to do? We are supposed to set our own course. If we refuse, if the opportunity arose, and we hit the pictures, we try to make the story secondary rather than primary, then we are accomplices to our own suffering. I've said earlier, and the Archbishop said, there's no peace for the Christian, there's no peace for the Muslim, peace is for everybody. Those houses burnt there. They are not houses of Christians, they are not houses of the natives, they are houses of whoever lives there. And so, if the Pope came, and he did actually come, a man without international standing, he's head of state of a country. In addition to enjoying the moral responsibility as the Pope, the missionaries who were there, who had the first voice, would have, in that program, made sure that events such as this that occurred just 2 weeks before the Pope came. Featured there, somebody would have come there in the St. Joseph's Cathedral and carry out the pictures and say, Pope, this is me standing here, I'm from Mamfe. This is what happened to us just 2 weeks ago, after your visit was announced. Would that have made any difference? I think so. That would have made a better impact on the Pope physically present than bringing somebody to stand there and tell the story of how he was selling beer and Guinness and they shut down his store. Than bring somebody to come and say, well, I'm the imam, I've lost some people, killed my Fulani people, whatever nonsense they talked about there. And so we have to sell our own story if we want it solved. Because that burning, again, we're learning about it today. That is Mamfe, that's not choir which is in the bush. That's Mamfe. What has the deal said? There's a prefect there. If it was an accident, there were fire accidents, we should have seen a report from the prefect. They should be there. There was a fire disaster here, burned so many houses. There's a reason why they do that. If they were a government. We expect that if there was that type of accident in Mamfe or anywhere else, based on the DO's report, there's a contingency plan, there's money available officially to come and help those people. But they will not do it. Why? Because they're ambassadors. Secondly, because we are accomplices to the crimes ourselves. Yes, that is real. It's not imaginary. It's real. Since you have linked it to the Pope, my question is, I've repeated again, why was this event that happened just 2 weeks before the Pope arrived not highlighted in St. Joseph's Cathedral in Bamenda when the Pope stood there, waiting to listen to the victims, waiting to see them physically present? It didn't occur. And so again, we don't know where to go again. If the church, like I say, cannot help us at a certain point, where else do we turn to? But we know that God is not only found in the church. God is not only found in the mosque. God is with you and me even where we are. We can continue to pray. Poor Mamfe. I saw these pictures 2 days ago. I wonder why they are coming out about a month after the event took place. It's unfortunate. We have enough accomplices in this thing. We have enough careless people, and so on and so forth. And in Mamfe, of course, he had the greatest politicians. Tabitha knows that was a senator from Mamfe. His house is 12 kilometers from that place. And there are other MPs and other senators from that place. There are other senior guys who are being proposed for prime minister, Mengod, and so on and so forth. It's a shame on us. It's a disaster we've gone through. Mental disaster if our people cannot stand up to resist this thing, at least morally. Over to you.
Barrister Biya, you've rightly said we have to tell our own story. Well, let's look at what is happening in Yaoundé. A statement attributed to Brenda Biya, daughter of Cameroon's long-serving leader Paul Biya, has sparked widespread political debate after she alleged that her father is critically ill. The claim remains unverified and has not been officially addressed by the French government. The remarks circulated on social media quickly gained attention and triggered intense speculation about the health of the 91-year-old president who has led French Cameroon for over 4 decades. Brenda Biya's post, which reportedly described her father as dying, has fueled renewed discussions about leadership continuity and governance in French Cameroon. The presidency in Yaoundé has so far maintained silence, with no official confirmation or denial issued in response to the claims. The development comes at a sensitive political moment where questions around presidential succession have long been avoided in public discourse. Analysts say the lack of transparency around the president's health has repeatedly contributed to uncertainty during moments of political tensions. The controversy is unfolding alongside the ongoing war in southern Cameroon's Amazonia, where armed clashes between government forces and Amazonian State Army continues. Amazonia's struggles for self-determination has resulted in significant displacement and humanitarian concerns over the past several years. Critics argue that the handling of both the governance transparency and the war in Amazonia reflects deeper structural challenges within the state. They point to limited political dialogue, heavy militarization in conflict zones, and a lack of visible progress toward a lasting resolution. Now, as speculation continues online, the absence of an official statement has further intensified public debate, with observers warning that misinformation and uncertainty could deepen existing political and regional tensions. Barrister Biya, here's a political debate. What is your assessment of this situation? Do you see any gaps or missing links in the unfolding narrative, and what exactly is the government in Yaoundé trying to hide?
Well, I can give you an answer straight away before going to analyze. They are trying to hide the facts that cannot be hidden. They are trying to hide the fact that a 93, 94-year-old man might die. He's just going to die. There's no way about that. You cannot escape that fact. It's just natural. In 93, 94, 95, a man of the age of Paul Biya officially is no longer physically functional. Functional to the extent of running a country, talk less of running a family. And so, everything said and done, give credit to Brenda Biya. In spite of all her shortcomings, she's a human being. She loves her father. That's her biological father. And when she said, my father is dying, that is a fact. But people are exploiting the poor old man for their political advantage. I don't know. I had a grandfather. I don't know who is a grandfather at 93 who will be signing documents. You need somebody to hold his pen before he signs. But given that Paul Biya is head of state, he's presumed to have lived well all his life, he's supposed to be better. But see, better, no. Paul Biya in the past 20, 30 years has spent all his life in Geneva at the Intercontinental Hotel in the hospital. So he's not a healthy old man. He's a sick old man. Not me saying, I hear I saw somewhere he's going away next week back to Geneva for treatment. So if a man is already at 90-something and is frequenting the hospital just to survive a few more days, a few more months if he's lucky, should you burden this man with the idea of governance? Governance is not even just your wife and your children. To govern a country of 30 million people with diverse problems, the 30 million in quote, including the Anglos who are fighting a war. What do you expect Paul Biya to say? Paul Biya has not moved out of that place forever. During the election campaign, you don't see him go anywhere, but yet he wins the elections. So this is something people, political criminals are trying to profit from the poor man's aging position. Today, you find a decree come out. They call it a decree, creating Sokadeh, whatever nonsense they call it. And then another one will come out tomorrow. Who believes honestly Paul Biya signs those things? Who believes honestly? If I were in the position of Paul Biya, I would be the same. I would not able to sign anything again. Even if you bring that thing and then they're reading it to you, would that man understand it? He's senile. He might be looking physically strong, but he's senile. It's like pretending. Somebody tell us that at 93, Paul Biya doesn't wear diapers. No old man at 95, you know, he's going in diapers. They're just natural. And so I give credit to Brenda for saying what she's saying. Let people who surround Paul Biya stop masquerading what they are doing. Stop using him for their political ends. And so it's unfortunate that we find ourselves where we are. It's very unfortunate that they call Ambazonian part of the country. But again, as far as Cameroon is concerned, minus us, they have the government that deserves. As I said in the last segment, you have to fight for your own case. If Cameroonians cannot fight for their own rights, if they sleep there and think that Paul Biya will die, and then they will come and fight. When he dies, by the time he dies, tomorrow, the next day, or the next week, somebody, another giant, another tyrant would have taken over, encircled the place, and will not do it. But can a group of 5, 10, 20, 30, even 100 people be able to defeat 30 million people? No. Come out, Cameroonians, if you want to fight for your own rights, and fight for them. But counting on Paul Biya, you're wasting your time. That man, if he's still alive, is a dead living man. At least dead in the sense that he can no longer do anything acceptable in a normal human society. I don't know any other person who is older than him in the world. Maybe they are. But if they are all dead living people. Because politics is not a game of jokes. It's a game that carries with it stress. Stress that an old man at 93, 94, 100 can no longer carry. If he pretends to carry it, somebody is deceiving him. Over to you.
Barrister Buea, you cited a concern of exploitation by some of this Yaoundé's government political actors using Paul Biya as a stepping stone to ensure the gain dominance, political dominance. But don't you think Paul Biya has a right to either withdraw, to resign, or to give way?
Paul Biya has a right. But when we talk of a right, it should be when you're in your real mental capacities. If you're already a sick man, what right do you exercise? You're going to exercise that right through talk for you, is already one of the manipulators. What will you do? For example, at that age, the closest person to him is supposed to be his wife and his children. But the children are grown up, they are gone somewhere else. They're supposed to be his wife. But if the wife at that time is also a manipulator, because she's young, she sees your eventual death and she sees openings for herself. She's a bad woman, but she's still your wife in a way. You're like, I don't know where you come from. If you go to the grass field area where Farms had so many wives, when the father is in his 90s, the wives begin to masquerade around him, each one positioning his or her daughter, his or her son, for example, as a successor. They're all his wives. But each of those women who know that this guy will soon die, they will all become widows. They will succession. Every woman wants her son to be the chop chair. And so that man is not capable of making any decision for himself. Most particularly is the president. The character was talking, here me are talking. Because when you talk to make it official, somebody will have to put the stamp there and put a signature there to show that it's come from the presidential palace. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him at this stage. But he can be blamed for allowing himself to go beyond 80 and continue to be there. If you're in the United States, you realize that in the last presidential election, the presidential candidate for the Democrats was Biden. He was kicked out because he was 80. They said, no, at that stage, you cannot longer be the president of this country. And he withdrew his own nomination. Because the population that are 80, it's impossible for you to run the country, called it the United States. So, but he probably had promoted himself, which he has done. When he got there, he was 40-something, 40-something. He had gone over the years, manipulated, people have manipulated him to occupy positions. Then he continued to be president, who believes honestly that in the last election of last 2025, President Buea actually wanted to be president. We could not talk. Somebody talked for his candidature. Somebody deposited his candidature. Nobody saw him campaigning anywhere. Who believes that this man is a living politician? He might be physically alive, but he's a dead living man. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Biya. All right, let's move to this report. In a display that has drawn public scorn, traditional rulers from Buea have petitioned the colonial Southwest Gendarmerie Legion, accusing one of their own of absconding with 3 million francs CFA gifted to them during a courtesy visit to the new Speaker of the French Cameroon National Assembly. The complaint, signed by HRM Ikome Philippe Mokwa, president of the Buea Chiefs Conference, alleges that Chief Utege Augustine vanished with the entire sum meant to be shared among the delegation after their visit to Honorable Dato Theodora in Yaoundé last week. According to the petition addressed to the Colonial Legion Commander, Colonial Kola, the chiefs had agreed to converge at a Yaoundé hotel to divide the money. Chief Etuge allegedly failed to show up. When contacted on phone, he said he can't do anything to him. He has taken all the money, Chief Mokwa wrote in the complaint. The fallout, described in humiliating detail, left the traditional rulers claiming destitution in the capital. Sir, this situation left us stranded in Yaoundé. No money to pay our hotel rooms, no transport to come back to Buea. God alone knows how we managed to return back to Buea, the petition reads. Now we see that the chiefs ended their complaint not with a demand for justice, but with a plea for the Gendarmerie to recover and redistribute the cash. We pray you please use your good office to see that the above-mentioned chief brings the 3 million to your office and shares it among all of us. The Buea delegation was part of a large group of Southwest chiefs who visited the new House Speaker to congratulate him on his appointment. The incident has sparked outrage, with many questioning the dignity of traditional authorities who, after receiving a political handout, publicly admit to being rendered penniless and homeless in Yaoundé over its division. Critics say the episode exposes a disgraceful dependence on political largesse and reduces the referred institution of the chieftaincy to public begging. Neither Chief Etuge nor the Gendarmerie Legion has publicly responded to delegations. Barrister Mbesiar, embarrassing we would say. What's your thoughts on this?
I think it's not just embarrassing. I think it's the greatest embarrassment that we ever had in the history of Amazonia. Because this is shameful. They are going to see the Speaker of the National Assembly for what in the first place? What has she got to do with the President of the National Assembly? Are they parliamentarians? What are they going to see him for? And if they must go to see him, where is the money, the 3 million funds, from where? What budget does it fall in? This is pure corruption number one. I mean, what is he giving them the money for? In terms of Cameroon, what does even the President of the National Assembly stand for? Absolutely zero. They never initiated any law in the National Assembly. So you're going to see him for what? But that decides. How many times did he go to see Brenda, who just left? For his 30 years or 33 years that he was there. How often did he lead delegations to go and see him in Yaoundé? So this is orchestration. This is theft. And they're not even ashamed to tell the story of how they had no hotel base. Who gave them the money to go there? Who told them to pay them transport back? To a point that if they didn't give them transport back, they will have nowhere to go. They will be stranded in Yaoundé. And of course, they filed a complaint to the whoever they got in Buea there of the Gendarmerie. What's he got to do with that? What's the crime? What's the crime that other chief took the money and ran away with it? What's the crime? It's like people go to steal, you got the booty, well, the strong thieves take the booty and run away. You cannot go and report your own illegality for action to be taken there. But above all, they are called FACO chiefs. Something bigger is happening behind the screens in the same Buea. Just before I came online, I saw another document purportedly put out there in the so-called House of Chiefs of the region, the regional House of Chiefs of Southwest, with the names of people, delegates to go and see the President of the National Assembly. That document is dated 30th of March. So the chiefs in the region, called the Southwest Chiefs, are taking another delegation there. In addition to the FACO chiefs, 3 million. I remember that Southwest has 6 divisions. If each division sent a delegation and took 3 million, that would be 18 million. And then the chiefs will come to themselves as regional chiefs, maybe that would be 10 million. But that's not even the embarrassment there. When I read through the document put out from the regional House of Chiefs, they listed the chiefs who are supposed to go see that guy in Yaoundé as a delegation. Among the ones that they listed were funds that died 5 years ago. They didn't see featured there as going to see the President of the National Assembly. Funds who died 5 years plus ago. Still featured in the list of funds to leave Buea, dated 27th of March 2026, to go and see the PAM. So you ask the question, what is this euphoria of rushing to Yaoundé from left and right to go and meet the Speaker of the National Assembly? If it is not corruption, what else is it? What is the role of chiefs in parliamentary organization? What is their role in parliament when they make law? Some of them, I saw the ones they put out there. Among the delegation include senators who are already in Senate, but they are going now as a delegation. They include some chiefs who are parliamentarians, who are joining again as chiefs to go see this guy and to take money. 2 questions asked. Where is this money coming from? Under what budget does it fall? Nothing short of corruption. Question number 2. What is the purpose of this? What does the PAM, the President of the National Assembly, do parliamentarily for the funds or for the chiefs or whatever they call themselves? Zero. He does not propose legislation that affects them. He does not do anything. And so why the euphoria, borrowing money, going to Yaoundé, getting stranded because you can no longer come back? Somebody did not pay you transport. At least you borrow your ropes and war. You wore your wrapper, you borrow a couple of mine and war, and appear there and you are the chief. Shame on these people. I've never seen anything like this before. This is what we should condemn. It is people who were ordinary people, they should be ostracized, and ostracized permanently from politics. Over to you.
In your words, it's embarrassing and even disgraceful. Thank you very much, Barrister Biya, for the thoughts, the perspectives, and in-depth analysis you brought to our reports tonight. Well, this is where we'll let you go. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. This is where we'll let you go, so we'll head over to the rest of the news.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now we'll head over to the rest of the news and let's see what's trending around the globe. Zambia has disclosed that negotiations with the United States over a major health funding agreement have stalled, citing disagreement over proposed mineral partnerships and data sharing conditions. The Zambian government said the deadlock followed the inclusion of terms it considers unacceptable, particularly provisions related to data access that could compromise citizens' privacy. The proposed deal, valued at $2 billion over 5 years, forms part of Washington's broader effort to restructure health aid to African countries following the closure of the United States Agency for International Development. According to officials, the agreement included elements tied to critical minerals cooperation, which became a major sticking point during negotiations. Details of the offer were leaked earlier this year by a non-governmental organization. Under the proposal, Zambia would receive $320 million in health funding in the first year, with allocations gradually declining to $112 million by 2030. The revised funding structure represents a reduction compared to previous support. In 2024, Zambia received more than $400 million in health sector assistance from Washington. Authorities in Lusaka say discussions remain paused as both sides reassess the terms of engagement. And over to South Africa. A South African police officer has been commended after taking part in a high-risk operation to recover human remains from a crocodile in the Komati River. Captain Johan Potigeta was lowered alone into the crocodile-infested river to secure the reptile, which had been enthused so it could be lifted out by helicopter. The operation enabled forensic teams to retrieve suspected human remains. Let's watch. Authorities said body parts discovered inside the crocodile have been sent for DNA testing to establish the identity of a presumed missing person. Police leadership described the officer's actions as going beyond the call of duty, highlighting the risks involved in the operation. The incident has drawn public attention, with officials pointing to it as an example of the extreme conditions law enforcement officers may face during investigations. Now let's head over to what's trending across the globe. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has warned Iran against any attempts to incite anti-Semitism in Britain, as the government moves to strengthen security and fast-track new counter-terrorism extremism measures. Speaking after a high-level summit at Downing Street, Starmer said the UK would not tolerate foreign interference aimed at fueling hatred or division within society. His comments come amid rising concern over anti-Semitic incidents across the country. The government announced an additional 1.5 million euros in funding to support community cohesion and enhance protection for Jewish communities in high-risk areas. The move follows a series of attacks, including the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in Golders Green and recent incidents targeting synagogues and other Jewish sites. Authorities have launched counter-terrorism investigations into both the stabbings and a suspected arson attack on a former synagogue in Whitechapel. Police say a 45-year-old suspect, Issa Suleiman, has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder linked to the Golders Green attack, which left multiple victims injured. Kestama described the situation as a national crisis and confirmed that security agencies are examining whether foreign actors may have played a role in recent incidents. He described that anti-Semitism stems from multiple extremist ideologies, including Islamist, far-left, and far-right movements. The government is also preparing new legislation that would expand its ability to counter state-linked threat. Proposed measures include powers to ban organizations such as Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which Western governments have accused of supporting terrorism abroad. The Downing Street Summit brought together more than 90 participants, including senior police officials, university leaders, cultural institutions, and community representatives to coordinate a national response. As part of new measures, universities will be required to publish data on anti-Semitism on campuses and demonstrate steps taken to address it. Cultural bodies receiving public funding could also face sanctions if found to be promoting hate. Additional funding has been earmarked for local initiatives, including community safety programs, youth engagement, and interfaith projects. Barnet Council in North London, home to a large Jewish population, will also receive targeted support following recent attacks in the area. The latest funding builds on an earlier 25 million euros allocation to increase police patrols and strengthen security at Jewish schools, synagogues, and community centers. Political leaders across parties have raised alarm over the rise in anti-Semitism. Concerns have also intensified over the impact of ongoing protests, with calls for stricter enforcement against hate speech while maintaining the right to peaceful demonstration. Authorities say efforts will focus on prevention, enforcement, and community partnerships as the UK confronts what officials describe as a growing security and social cohesion challenge. Now let's look over what is happening in China. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has reaffirmed the island's commitment to international engagement following a 3-day visit to Eswatini, despite reported efforts by China to block the trip. Lai returned to Taipei on Tuesday after holding talks in Eswatini, one of Taiwan's remaining diplomatic allies, focusing on cooperation in economic, agriculture, cultural, and educational sectors. Taiwanese authorities said the visit was initially delayed after China allegedly pressured several countries to deny transit access to the presidential aircraft. Beijing did not confirm the claims but indicated support for the decisions taken. The trip was later rescheduled, with Lai arriving in Eswatini on 2nd May and proceeding with bilateral engagements. Speaking after his return, Lai defended the legitimacy of such visits and emphasized Taiwan's determination to maintain its presence on the global stage despite mounting diplomatic pressure. China considers Taiwan part of its territory and opposes any form of official exchange between Taipei and countries that maintain diplomatic ties with Beijing. This position has increasingly constrained Taiwan's international outreach, including travel routes and formal partnerships. Lai used the visit to underscore Taiwan's global identity and resilience, signaling that the island would continue to pursue international cooperation regardless of external pressure. He also acknowledged the role of Eswatini's Deputy Prime Minister Tulisili Ladlar in facilitating the visit and ensuring smooth coordination. The Eswatini trip highlights Taiwan's ongoing efforts to sustain diplomatic relationships and expand engagement, even as geopolitical tensions with China persist. Well, this is the report coming in right here from around the globe. And with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. But before we go, a recap of our major headlines. So military operations persist in Mamfe after papal visit. Tonight we also saw Buea is dying. Brenda Biya claims amid unverified health speculation. Also tonight we saw Buea chiefs report colleague to Gendarmerie over 3 million francs CFA gift. Laments being stranded in Yaoundé. And on the African scene, Zambia-US health funding talks stall over minerals and data dispute. And in the rest of the news across the globe, Starmer wants Iran over anti-Semitism as UK boosts security funding. And that is all on Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, we say thank you for joining. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.